Hello, this is Eileen, the environmental educator, and in this video, we're going to talk about Spacex. And they're in a little bit of hot water here with regulators because regulators found that Spacex repeatedly polluted waters in Texas this year. So this right here is an August 14th, 2024 article. That's the day I'm recording this. This exact same article had Yahoo as an echo chamber. So, a lot more people saw it. The Verge and did an article. This is the 13th. So this came out yesterday, but Spacex allegedly violated wastewater regulations at its launch site, sending pollution into bodies of nearby water. Right here on space.com, it says that SpaceX refutes reports that it polluted Texas waters, and that directs you to a couple of tweets here. They describe a few things. And one of the things they say, SpaceX says, is the vast majority of water used in each operation is vaporized by the rocket's engines. Now, I'm not a liftoff engineer, but one thing I do know is that underneath these rockets in NASA, it is a big pool of water there to absorb the energy and the heat that is coming off of these engines that's gonna take a rocket and people into space. So it's an enormous amount of energy, and water absorbs it. Right down here, SpaceX doesn't seem to have had water down there at first because it said in its first test flight of Starship in April 2023, energy from the rocket caused SpaceX concrete launch pad to explode, and its spacecraft also blew up mid-air. Chunks of concrete were hurled into a nesting and migration site important to some endangered species nearby, and a 3.5-acre fire chewed through the Boca Chica State Park land south of the launch pad. In response, environmental groups filed a lawsuit against SpaceX and the FAA, which had authorized its launches. And so Musk wanted another test flight within 2 months, so SpaceX rushed to rebuild the launch pad, installing a new water deluge system to keep it from exploding again. But they say the company bypassed a permitting process, which, according to the regulators, would have required it to meet pollutant discharge limits and say how it would treat its wastewater. And SpaceX is, of course, has something to say in its own defense. They say that we send the samples of the soil, air, and water around the pad to an independent, accredited laboratory after every use of the deluge system, which have consistently shown negligible traces of any contaminants. Importantly, with the CNBC story claimed, there are very large exceedances of the mercury as a part of the wastewater discharged at the site. All samples to date have in fact shown no detectable levels of mercury whatsoever, or found in very few cases levels significantly below the limit the EPA maintains for drinking water. It says here that retention ponds capture excess water and are specifically lined to prevent mixing with local groundwater. Any water captured in these ponds, including water from rainfall events, is pumped out and hauled off. SpaceX is saying, not so fast, we're not polluting the air. But that's not, I guess, what this report said. Right here it says, SpaceX violated environmental regulations by repeatedly releasing pollutants into or near bodies of water in Texas, a state agency said in a notice of violation focused on the company's water deluge system. It also says here that last week there was a notice from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and it said that they had also informed SpaceX that it had violated the Clean Water Act with the same type of activity. They say that they received 14 complaints alleging environmental impact of the facility's deluge system, the regulator said in the document. So 14 people called in, and in this paragraph they talk about how SpaceX needs to have permits for all these launches, and they're seeking permission to conduct 25 annual launches. And they say that notices of violation could delay those approvals and result in civil monetary penalties for SpaceX, further probes, and criminal charges. And right here, it says in a lengthy post on X, SpaceX said regulators have told the company that it can continue with launch operations despite violation notices. SpaceX says that throughout our ongoing coordination with the authoritative bodies, the Texas one and the EPA, we have explicitly asked if operation of the deluge system needed to stop, and we were informed that operations could continue. So SpaceX in the regulators' report have a little bit of area in between where the two of them stand right now. So we'll see where this goes, but right here they say that years of violations. Right here, SpaceX was required to apply for a permit within 30 days. The company didn't submit an application until July 1st, about 110 days later. So that's pretty funny. The authorities say that they've been violating wastewater regulations for years, and they continue to do so seemingly with the FAA's blessing. So a different organization, because this was the TCEQ and it was the EPA, and then they have the FAA, and probably a lot more three-letter agencies are involved with this. And SpaceX maintains, they wrote that the deluge system causes no harm to the environment. But there's this guy here, Kenneth Teague, a coastal ecologist based outside of Austin. He evaluated the 483-page SpaceX permit application, and he has more than 3 decades of water quality and coastal planning experience. And he told it, CNBC, the application was full of holes, missing basic details about water discharge volumes, the temperature of the effluent, and outfall locations. So this Teague said that he's especially concerned about the concentration of mercury, but according to SpaceX here, there isn't mercury. We read that quote somewhere in here. So Elon in a little bit of hot water here, and he's an environmentalist. 14 people narked him out. So, that's what those numbers are there for, I guess. Not turning in your neighbors, but I mean, if people are throwing things into our waterways, we want clean water, right? Trump promised us clean water. We just don't have it. And even if this is a very small percentage of the big pool, it's like with everything, like the plastic use, everything. It's all of our contributions are all very, very small. Okay, so we think they're irrelevant, but combined, it's the problem. So we got to pay attention to stuff like this, people. I'm sure the government and Elon will work things out. We'll see how this plays out, people. Stay tuned.